So something historic happened, and that is the first warehouse, Amazon warehouse, had actually successfully unionized. So that was really great. But it can't be a left-wing victory without some drama going on. And so this time, once again, it is involving AOC, represented from New York. This was a Amazon warehouse in Staten Island that ended up unionizing. And AOC has been under fire from the union workers who were, fighting, as well as now she got called out by Krystal. So this headline reads, Amazon union leaders say AOC abandoned them ahead of historic vote. It says Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez celebrated the historic unionization of Amazon workers at a Staten Island distribution center this week, but labor organizers are shunning the progressive Democrat. Ocasio-Cortez was accused by supporters of the Amazon labor union of, quote, leaving them high and dry by failing to show up for an August rally in support of the workers before the union vote. Christian Smalls, the man credited with leading the unionization drive, was asked over the weekend if he had a message for Ocasio-Cortez in the wake of his success. Hell no, he said. She don't deserve this moment. The socialist lawmaker, she's not socialist by the way, promised organizers she would stand by them at the rally outside the JFK 8 Amazon Fulfillment Center in the Bloomfield section of Staten Island last summer, but she dropped out at the last minute. Protest leaders told the Post in January that they were so crestfallen, they didn't even bother inviting her to a follow-up rally in December. It says Amazon workers at a warehouse in Staten Island voted Friday to become the web giant's first unionized U.S. workers. The vote was 2,654 in favor and 2,131 against unionization, according to National Labor Relations Board officials, the NLRB. Now, here's what happened. So the Amazon labor sent out a tweet saying current vote totals 1518 yes, 1154 no, 364 votes in ALU's favor to wrap up today's count. Counting will resume at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Union yes, ALU for the win. AOC sends out a tweet with some bicep flexors, 3 bicep flexors. So at least she's not outright taking, credit for this victory. The 3 bicep curls that you're seeing are, somewhat kind of taking a little bit credit or is trying to act like kind of she was involved in it. But at least it's not fully out there like, yeah, we did it. Like, we did a great job. So at least it's not that cringe. But Krystal sends out a tweet. Krystal, she's ready to start some drama, of course. She says, here's the guy who organized the union drive talking about how you left them high and dry. These are your constituents, and you couldn't be bothered to show up until they're on the cusp of victory. And so one of the things here is it's not true that these are her constituents. I guess some of them were, but the Amazon warehouse is not part of her constituency. It's not part of her district. So that's actually just outright false. But that doesn't take away from the criticism that she's trying to make here. So AOC then says, the warehouse isn't in my district, and maybe you should look at a map before claiming so. One scheduling conflict aside, we have requested oversight investigations into Amazon, met with Amazon workers in the Woodside warehouses, and more. Hope you do more due diligence next time. So the rest of this, after, saying the scheduling conflict, all this other stuff just seems to be like a red herring, which is like just something that's meant to distract from the issue, and it doesn't really address what's going on. All of this stuff has absolutely nothing to do with the assertion that she did not help them until they were on the cusp of victory, because this unionization effort is, something different from these other things that she's talking about. I guess you could maybe say the oversight investigations into Amazon may have helped, but, I don't really see it being that way. Jordan Chariton says, I was told by workers that your folks told them at last minute it was a security issue, not a scheduling conflict. Whether your district or not, you would think an NY congressman could have tweeted support, particularly in final weeks for one of the most important union drives in the United States. So I would say I definitely agree with this tweet. Just because, it's not in your district, you're in New York. Bernie Sanders is going around all over the country. He's a senator from Vermont. His constituents are only in Vermont, but he's going around with Starbucks workers, Kellogg's workers striking in Michigan, other states. So it's like, come on, it's NY, dude. Like, it's right there too. I think it's very near her district too. So it's lame, and it's not only lame, but it's also shooting yourself in the foot because you're just kind of, compartmentalizing yourself instead of expanding, your potential constituency group and supporters. AOC then says security was an issue as well. 2021 included a lot of high-level threats on my life, which limited what activities I was able to do, especially those outside. The combination of that plus when we are able to get resources/time to secure them creates scheduling plus logistical conflicts. Jordan Chariton then responds saying, with respect, there's no security concerns with sending out support to Amazon labor trying to win the first unionized Amazon to 13 million followers. Your voice and organizing power makes a difference. So it seems like AOC here is talking about attending the rally event, and Jordan is talking about sending out tweets. So they're actually even talking about different things here. You could see he says you could have at least tweeted out support. So I don't know 100% for a fact whether or not it's true that she didn't even send out support on Twitter. If that is true, that's really embarrassing. But I can't confirm that for 100% because I haven't fully vetted whether or not that's true. But what you can see here are multiple issues. Okay, now the issues that I can see from this are, it is pretty embarrassing that she didn't show support. According to the union organizers, they were, I guess, completely ghosted even, and even given the promise that she would show up. But what you can see, honestly, more than anything, is just the lack of leadership abilities. I would say, like, the biggest thing about leadership is communication. And especially given that AOC is a young representative, a new age representative who's so focused on social media, which is good. The main thing about that is supposed to be communicating with your supporters and your constituents, right? And so you can just see the communication breakdowns that are just left and right here. So first of all of these things which she's saying, right? The only relevant things here, this other stuff that she's talking about is just a red herring. But the other stuff, one scheduling conflict aside, so she's saying it's a logistical scheduling issue as well as a security issue. And in this way, she's specifically talking about that one event. When it was a long 6-month process that she apparently didn't have anything to do with, there would have been other events and other things you could have done to support them. So that doesn't really make sense. But regardless, she's saying it's a logistical issue and a security issue. But here you can see in this tweet, she says one scheduling conflict aside, and then in the next tweet, she's saying it's a security issue as well. And so I'm not necessarily saying that these things are impossibly true. It's not necessarily completely unfounded or untrue that there was a scheduling conflict and a security issue. But my problem is your ability to communicate that is literally complete garbage. Not only did you do a horrible job of, maybe you could have communicated to the union workers, hey, I have this logistical conflict, I have this security issue as well, this scheduling conflict, this security issue, and they would have been at least hopefully understanding. And if they weren't, at least we would have known, like, oh, you tried to communicate it to them, and in that situation, maybe they would be the ones who are unreasonable. But if you didn't communicate it to them or to us, your supporters, it's a huge issue. And this is a huge issue I have with AOC. Her ability to communicate to her supporters is horrible, and she just somehow expects people to know all of this stuff without actually telling us. How are we supposed to know this stuff if you don't tell us? And even in this, it was already a massive issue 6 months ago, and even recently, that you didn't tell the union workers this stuff, and that you didn't tell us. But even now, you're saying stuff like, in one tweet, you're saying it's a scheduling conflict, and in another tweet, you're saying it's a security issue as well. Why didn't you put them both in the previous tweet? And so one issue is, it is a bogus excuse that you could have at least supported them in some kind of way. Tweets and another event. There are multiple events. There's lots of time you could have set something up. All of that kind of stuff. But even if these were legit issues, it's your job, it's incumbent upon you to be able to communicate that to us. And she just doesn't really seem to be able to do that. And so like I said, like Bernie Sanders going all across the country, striking with union workers. So he's putting in work. This is just a very lame excuse, and really indicates to me that AOC just simply is not a leader. But I do want you guys to check out the video footage here from the union organizers talking about this, because there's actually even more that I want to say about this.
Now we get to go back and share a celebratory moment with them, because without them, this wouldn't be possible.
And any message for AOC specifically?
Hell no, man. I'm not giving her no. She don't deserve this moment. Yeah.
Well, one more, last question. Do you think it's possible today that Jeff Bezos is so outraged and upset that he might go to space permanently?
don't give a damn what Bezos did, honestly. You know, Bezos ain't the CEO anymore, but I know he was watching. And I'm happy he was able to enjoy this. If he is enjoying it, but whatever.
No permanent space mission.
Nah, he probably ain't going nowhere, but it's you know what? Once again, I ain't giving this moment to him either. You know, this is about the workers and Jeff Bezos, politicians, everybody else. Forget about it. I know who was there from day one. I know who supported us from day one, and I know what we're capable of doing. Today we proved that.
I mean, you can't get in people's head, but why do you think you guys were basically fending for yourselves where progressive congresspeople in their backyard weren't even tweeting on your behalf?
I think it's just that our campaign and our model was such a long shot. They saw it as risky to even associate with us because at the end of the day, they are politicians as much as they say that they're on the side of the workers. They have to prioritize getting reelected and all that stuff. But as far as the AOC thing, it wasn't even so much the fact that she flaked out on us. It was more the fact that she went radio silent for 6 months after that and didn't show a word of support for us until it was clear that we were going to win. And it was that way with Jamal Bowman as well and a lot of these politicians. But I mean, I'm not really upset about it because at the end of the day, we are an apolitical union. We don't want to be reliant on political outsiders. I mean, it would have helped. It would have made things a little bit easier for us because they have such a large platform. They could have gotten us more donations or more visibility or helped the workers see that we are more credible. But at the end of the day,
speak up when workers are getting arrested for handing out chicken.
We have one of our organizers who was illegally terminated, Daquan Smith, was staying at a homeless shelter in AOC's district. And we tried to see if we could reach out to her to get some help with that, but we weren't able to. But at the end of the day, we won without them, and we can continue to achieve big victories without them. It would have been helpful to have that support early on. I mean, it's not really fair for them to stand at the finish line now and say that they support us because we needed the support in the beginning. We don't need it now.
So as you guys just saw, I showed you the video footage of the union organizer, as well as, some video footage from Chris Smalls, who's the biggest one. And so in terms of what's really going on with the left right now in terms of a political sense, I think it's actually a good development for the progressive left because it seems like the only pathway for the progressive left was simply one way. And that one way was electoral, an attempt at electoralism, right? And so trying to get Bernie Sanders president, AOC, and other progressives in Congress, that was the only way. But now what you're seeing is there's a divergence where now there's a more two-pronged effect where some people are completely leaving the electoral route and now they're diverging into, okay, let's focus on labor unions and different things like that, political organizations that can wield power. Because unions are extremely, extremely beneficial. They're arguably the most important because they give workers rights. It shifts workers' power back into their direction, especially with a lot of these companies like Amazon and geographic areas being monopsonies where they're the only purchasers in the resource market. They're the only ones purchasing labor in an entire area, so wages are garbage because there's no competition to bring the wages up. So there's all of these issues going on, and it's a good thing to have a two-pronged effect. And you could even see that they're kind of trying to stay apolitical a bit as well, which I think is a good idea as well. And so you don't want to alienate anybody. You want to politically support progressives, and unions end up becoming, essentially weapons that you can use in order to support progressive causes. But I believe in a two-pronged effect. I don't believe in a one either way. I don't think one should just be focused on electoralism, and I don't believe that one should solely be focused on labor unions. I think you need both, because if you don't have electoral representatives to support labor unions, government's going to end up destroying labor unions, just like they have ever since the days of Ronald Reagan. Fuck the days of Ronald Reagan. Way before that, I mean, you're talking about like the National Guard being sent in and, private companies starting fights and then just brutally massacring, workers. So it's obviously just a very, clear historic thing that you see going on. And so it's important for us to go this route. And this is what seems to be happening in terms of just like an analysis of strategy and what's going on in the progressive left. I think this is a good thing ultimately. Now, unions do go left sometimes, especially when they start to get really big, because the leadership of the union will sell out the union workers, and they will end up supporting, non things that are not beneficial for the union workers, like we saw with the culinary union in Nevada. It ended up not working because those workers ended up supporting Bernie Sanders, but the leadership did everything they could to lie to their, union workers and try to get them to not support Bernie Sanders. Also, another worry could be that, it causes too much strife and chaos. But I think that the union gains that you're able to get for workers is so beneficial, that it outweighs any potential chaos that can come from that. But you need both. You need to work towards getting electoralism going as well as unions at the same time. And really, they should go hand in hand, because then labor can help politicians. Labor's unions are definitely powerful, and so unions can help politicians and vice versa. And so this is definitely very disappointing to see from AOC. I think that the criticism here is definitely, warranted. It doesn't seem like one of those situations where, someone like a Jimmy George is just attempting to inflate his own ego, and so he gets angry when Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard doesn't come on his show. I thought that the union organizers were pretty measured in their response, and didn't seem to be too full of themselves in that way. And especially, the first union organizer, not Chris Smalls, but the other one, he seemed to be pretty understanding and level-headed, which was nice to see. So hopefully that's what we'll see with union representation. But disappointing to see, but can't say I'm too surprised.